right, we are out here with the new Cortina version 2 tuner, and you can see the way this one's designed, it starts out flush, and you're gonna only work backwards, and that's why the numbers go the way they do. So you're actually gonna be dialing like this, and we're gonna be doing a setting tune here. There's a little mark so you know where 0 is. And you know, it's really a nice brake or a nice tuner because it's all under tension, it's O-ringed, there's no set screws anymore, and it's lighter. It's only 4 ounces, so it balances out a little better on the barrels. And I've been playing with one for a while now, and I have to say I really, really like it. Also, just a quick note for anybody that needs a tuner brake, he does make the new V2 in a tuner brake model, so don't be afraid to call up and order one of those if that's what you need. So what we're doing first is we're just got it set on 0, and then we're going to be doing a seating depth test. And you know, I just have my notes here for what my depths are, and then once we get that seating depth, then we're going to go to the tuner test. So check back in a minute here. All right, we're on a cold range right now, so I just came out anyway. So this is 100-yard testing. These are all 3-shot groups, and you can see this was the longest. I went back 3 thousandths and back another 1,000. So this is a little bit tall. This is starting to settle in. We're still going to take some more here and see what happens. But overall, I'm really liking this seating depth so far. I just want to see how far back this node goes at this point, and then we'll get on to tuning. All right, range is hot again. I just wanted to show you guys. So I have everything seated long. I then have my inline die with me and my arbor press, obviously my calipers, and this is how I'm seating. So this way, I'm not preset. I'm not set on wasting ammo. So once I get kind of to the end of that seating depth node, I can stop, and then I still have ammo to validate or test with something else. Same thing with this box. This is all loaded long, so I can load it to the length that I want to test the tuner with. But this really makes life easy, and especially with component shortages, helps make the most efficient use of your components. All right, we're all done with the seating depth test. So we went from a certain point. I went 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I felt like obviously it was tighter in this range. That was me, so it was still tight through these 3 settings, and then opened up a little bit. It did tighten back up here, but I felt like this was the best. So I went back and did this setting. It replicated that vertical, so you can see there. And then I redid this one, and it went there. So it opened up just a little bit. The gun is just a little bit hotter, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop 1 thousandths down, so that'll put me right between here, and then we're gonna do our tuner test. We are back in the shop. We're going to go over the data from today, but I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an update on looking at the new tuner. So this is just a piece of steel that has this threaded on. It's not a barrel or anything like that. It's just for demonstration purposes. But here you have the tuner. You can see there's a nylon washer in there, and then you have this compression spring, and then his threading. One of the first things you're going to notice is compared to his old necessary milling and thread, the new one is both considerably shorter and bigger in diameter compared to the old one, meaning a lot more meat is left on the barrel, which is, to be honest, probably a pretty good advantage there. I do like that. His threads are a little bit different to accommodate the new tune on it. And just to show you, when you're threading this onto a barrel, if we pretend that this was a barrel, which it's not, then you would simply screw it on until you get to flush, kind of like I showed you out at the range. And then, you know, like let's say this black mark is top dead center for my barrel. I would then make a decision whether to designate a different number as top dead center, or, you know, if your gunsmith, you know, doesn't get it indexed exactly correct. And I've had situations where I've got maybe 3 or 4 barrels that I'm using. They all get put on, maybe I move them between a couple actions, and as a result, they might be just a little bit off on how they index. So you just need to make sure that you have a reference point for where you want to start, and then you would just start working your way in. It's not that big a deal. But I do like, compared to the old one, how much, in fact, you saw that this one's so small that I can actually fit it inside the new one. Yeah, it's a lot more meat left on here. So let's talk about the actual data. Now, for the purposes of the video, I shot this differently. I did still shoot some groups, but I kind of just wanted to show you tuner setting 0 all the way to 45, and then you can just see where the impacts are. And I'm just looking for consistency on these when I shoot them. And then normally I would shoot a 3-shot group. I just thought it would be kind of interesting to show you kind of how we've talked about how the tuner affects bullet impact, and it just has a more profound effect when you see the individual bullets like this. But, everything's being held at center aim, and you can just see how, making tweaks, you're going to change your impact. And I'm just looking for consistency. So if we take that and then we look at the actual groups, I liked a couple different tuning settings, and I wanted to kind of validate them. So 35 and 0 here, you're going to look at and you're going to be like, what the heck happened? I'm going to tell you, I left my front rest loose. I made an adjustment and forgot to tighten it down. So I think it was after this one that I figured it out, because I just couldn't figure out why it opened up that much, because it didn't make sense. But then you can see here on my 0 tune, and these are all 3-shot groups. So you can see here, that's 3 shots at setting 0, which I had a feeling would be really good, and setting 35, which I thought would be really good. I tested 20, and you can see it's not as good. It's still 3 shots, and but it's barely touching. 2 went through one hole, 1 off to the side. Yes, we had a little bit of wind, and yes, a little bit of wind at 100 yards can make a difference. So anybody that discounts testing at 100, trust me, it can make a difference. But I still didn't like how this one shot. So that definitely told me that, because I thought, well, if 0 shoots good and 35 shoots good, let me see how something in the middle kind of tuned up. Even though on paper here, I didn't like what was going on in these middle tunes, but that's why I want to rule it out. And then 35 was really good, and I thought that a little bit higher might present something for me. And I was on my last rounds at that point, but I went ahead and sent some rounds down at the 45 tune, and it definitely opened up. So you can see, there is a definite difference. Let me put some white behind this for you to kind of help, or actually black would be better, huh? So if you look here, you can kind of get an idea for the groups. Super good, definitely opened up. It's a clover leaf. And this one, potentially I could try validating again if I wanted to, but it definitely presented a little bit of openness. So what does this tell me? Well, I go into each test with a limited amount of ammo. I don't go in with 200 rounds and just keep hammering away at it until I'm done. Life just doesn't let us do that right now. So I went in with a certain number of rounds and a certain number of validation rounds, and I feel very confident with where I'm at right now. So you can see the difference in the tuner. And actually, let me look at my notes real quick here. Okay, so 20 was shot after I fixed my rest. So 35 and 0, I realized the problem. I shot this one at 20, and it opened up. And then that's why I shot 20 again, because I wanted to kind of validate that it opened up a little bit, and in fact it did. So you kind of have to ignore these because my rest was a little wobbly and I didn't realize it. But moving forward, you can see kind of how I do that testing. And I am covering some broad strokes here. But now what I can do is next time I go to the range, and if I get a chance, I'll shoot another video on it. But what I'll do is I'll work around these numbers, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to establish what I typically call safety nets. So I know this shoots tight, and I know this shoots tight. And so I know I have these 2 tunes, and I want to see how wide are my safety nets around each of these, so that if I'm in a different location, different humidity, different temperature, different, elevation, whatever it is that's going to be affecting these rounds. Let's say I shoot 0, I go somewhere like Phoenix, and it's, 30% less humid and, 50 degrees hotter. Well, this may not hold up, but this particular tune might. So it's all about having these kind of safety nets, tuning up and down from these points here. And at 0, technically, I'm only going to be coming in. So I would test like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I would see what that felt like. And then I would test, maybe 30 to 40 over on this one to see what the range looks like. But, that's for another day, and that's all about breaking a barrel in. This barrel, as of right now, is just over 100 rounds. So it's kind of at that point where I do get a little more comfortable with how it's shooting. But the goal at this point, we're starting September. I have a really big match at the end of the month, and then 3 weeks later we have Nationals. So I'm 7 weeks away from Nationals. I'd like to go into Nationals with about 400 rounds, give or take, on this barrel. So that gives me 300 some odd rounds to work with. I'm going to be shooting probably 100 and some odd rounds at the end of the month, and plus or minus some load development in between then. So if I can get this barrel, somewhere in that 400, maybe 500 round at the most rounds down it, all while validating this tighter and tighter, then I feel like I'm going to have a really good barrel going into nationals, and that's really the goal here. It takes time to develop these things. I went through one entire barrel that I've already thrown out when I started shooting my new 6.5 necked up to 7 mil, which I'm calling 7WT, which it sounds stupid, but I just called it 7 Wind Thumper. But my 7WT, I've got 1,300 some odd rounds down one barrel, getting familiarity with it, kind of learning its quirks with reloading and stuff like that. I'm now on this barrel, and I'm definitely off to a faster start. And having the tuner really gives you the ability to do this, because now I'm not wasting as many rounds doing, multiple seating depth tests and powder charge tests. Like, I'm still going to go back and I'm going to tweak them a little bit, but having these tuner settings where I can go, okay, yes, it's shooting one hole. Yes, it's shooting one hole. It gives you the ability to feel confident that that's what you're going to do. So if you haven't checked it out, this, again, is the new Cortina tuner that I've been using. If you go to their website, they've got some different programs for these as far as adapting them to your old thread. So if you have one of these threads, you can actually get an adapter for it. I forget exactly how he's doing it, but I do like how it's kind of got these flatten on it here. And the last thing, as I said before, if you are looking for a tuner brake, which he's always offered in his old tuners, yes, he does have tuner brakes available in the new model as well. And they do come in the black nitride. So I just happen to have all stainless ones. So as always, I appreciate you guys watching. I hope going through these tuners, helps you guys see the benefits. I was not always sold on them. I kind of downplayed them in the beginning, but the more I got used to them, the more I kind of understood their value, the more I'm really coming to appreciate having them on my guns, especially for away matches or for, just kind of dialing things in a little bit. Can you make things worse for yourself? Absolutely. But that's where testing, practicing, kind of knowing your ranges really comes in handy. So as always, I hope you guys have a good one. We'll talk later.